Why are so many people talking about moving to Costa Rica? So today we are talking about the challenges of moving to Costa Rica, and what about the pandemic and COVID situation in Costa Rica? Is it better than where you are? But guess what? Newsflash. I hear that tomorrow, February 15th, they're talking about more protest, roadblocks. No way! Yeah, way. Those are just some of the obstacles and challenges you might face when moving to Costa Rica. So if you haven't met us and this is your first time here, well, I'm Alan and this is my lovely Valentine, Rebecca. So welcome to today's live broadcast.
Yes, and happy Valentine's Day to all of you.
All right, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Now that you can actually hear, guess what? I was just telling everybody, and Johnny says that the audio doesn't seem to be working for her. Hey, check your audio, and anyone else, let me see. Whoops, it looks like, yep, looks like, hey, it looks like the audio is working on our end. Okay, does the audio work for anyone else? Janet says it just came on for her, so hopefully it's working for everybody else.
How are we? Can y'all hear us?
Okay.
And we have a lot of noise in one of our favorite restaurants today.
Keto says sound is good, and yes, we've got a lot more background noise than normal. So unfortunately,
which is why we tried to use our lapel mic so that it wouldn't pick up all the surrounding noise.
Yes, we tried to use the lapel mics. We got some lapel mics so we'd have better audio, but obviously something's not working there. So I'm just gonna have to have another live later just to test it out. Okay. So, sound is okay, but the background noise, the talking is bad. Okay.
Maybe we should just reschedule for another time. What do you think?
It says it's working for most everybody there, and it looks like we got a good bit of lag here too. So, not sure what we're going to do here, but we're just gonna go ahead and have a good time. All right.
Yeah, we can always.
Looks like we got
deleted, I guess. As long as you guys can hear us right now.
Okay, it looks like most people are saying that it is working right now, and it does look like there's quite a bit of lag from the time we're recording to the time that you guys have got it. Okay, and so we're getting a lot of good ones. Okay, so a lot of people say it's not that bad. Star says it's 100%. Well, great. Okay. Well, look, let's go ahead and get started on it. But before we get started, hey, we've got a bunch of people watching right now. And there's only 10 likes in there. So, hey, please take a moment to smash that like button. That really helps us out a whole lot because that tells the YouTube algorithm that you value the content that's right here. And it actually helps to kind of push our information out there so more people just like you who are wanting this information about Costa Rica will get that information. So please take a moment to smash that like button right now. I know it only takes you a half a second to do that, but you don't have any idea. I know you can't imagine how much that actually helps us. Okay, so before we get started, I want to tell you that if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and look, you can get lots and lots of information at forum.cloudforestchapel.com. We are at one of our favorite restaurants here, and normally it doesn't have a lot of people, but hey, it is the holiday, it's Valentine's Day, and like anywhere in the world, lots of people are indeed at the restaurants.
Yeah. And if you keep hearing the blender go off, they have 2-for-1 mojitos right now.
2-for-1 mojitos, 2-for-1 daiquiris, and pina coladas. So thinking about getting 2 for me because she don't want one. That's 2 for 1. All right, okay. So here we go. Let me look at my notes right here. Okay, so hey, most importantly, you know, when you're getting ready to go to Costa Rica, you'll want to be sure to do all your research. We've got lots of great information. However, indeed, there are challenges to moving to Costa Rica. You know, if you're bringing a pet, that can be a challenge. However, you can get lots of information about bringing a pet because Rebecca, she brought our pet, okay?
My greatest resource for what is required to bring over a pet was from the U.S. Embassy .cor.gov. Last time I couldn't remember the email address, but it's in the forum. But that was the most useful website for the information to move to bring your pets over.
And it's not that difficult to bring your pets over, but if you don't have all of the correct information, it can be a hassle and it can be a challenge that's going to pop up.
It's not that it's difficult, it's just that they do require special paperwork that has to be signed by a particular office in the United States or whatever country you're from. And then there are the airline requirements where, you know, certain size cages, certain size dogs can't fly on certain airlines. You know, just all of that to look into.
That's right. Now, before I continue on, because I forgot last time, remember, we're going to have this, and I think I said it earlier when the audio wasn't working, but we're going to have this live presentation about 30 to 40 minutes. We like to keep it short, but then we're going to answer your questions in the live presentation that will start at 2:45 Eastern Standard Time, and so you can be sure to put all of your questions there. But today, we're going to, at the first presentation, we're going to just talk about all of these things and then answer your question, just so that you know, okay? Now, if you're watching the replay, you can always go to our forum at forum.cloudforestchapel.com, and hey, we're always answering questions inside the forum as well. Now, we talked about, you know, bringing an animal can be a challenge, but hey, the resources out there, whether you go to our forum or you go to the embassy website, it's not difficult. You just got to make sure you have the paperwork. Now, you know, another thing that when getting ready to come over here, there are some requirements to come into Costa Rica, and that is ever changing. Now, we did do a video last week.
No, it was the week before, I believe.
But anyway, we did a video, an updated video on what are the requirements to come to Costa Rica, and it shows you step by step exactly what you need to do. So that video will show you what you need to do, what you need to get, and show you step by step exactly how to fill out that health pass, which can be a little bit of a challenge because, well, the website doesn't quite work the way it ought to work.
Right.
So check out that video.
Things didn't really change that much before the pandemic, you know, but now rules are changing, you know, from month to month, sometimes from week to week. Costa Rica has just lifted their travel restriction for people, you know, residents within the country. There used to be a weekday restriction according to your license plate, but they've lifted that. So now restrictions are just on the weekend. So, but they still have no driving between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., you know, across the board.
That's right. So, you know, things do change and you need to know that. So you can make sure that you're always checking to find out, and you can always get the most updated information in our forum as well. Now, also, you know, if you're coming over here just to vacation or to tourist, Rebecca said, you know, there were some driving restrictions, still a little bit of driving restrictions, even though they did remove some. But for a tourist, if you're a tourist and you can prove that you're a tourist, then there are no driving restrictions for you because they want to encourage tourists to come to Costa Rica.
Right, and the only proof they require is your hotel reservation. So if you have an Airbnb or a hotel reservation and you get stopped, just as a tourist, just present that to the officers and they are supposed to let you, you know, go about your way.
That's right. Now, also another thing that you do want to make sure that you're prepared before coming is to, you know, how are you going to communicate once you get here, right? So a lot of cell phones, you know, if you have your cell phone plan with AT&T or whoever, you need to make sure that your phone is not locked, okay? Which means you got to go to that provider and say, hey, look, I'm going to Costa Rica to travel or I'm going to move, and you need to unlock that phone or you got to buy a international plan. But if you're moving, you need to unlock it.
Yes, and I would advise you to talk to more than one person, because before we moved, I went into our local store, talked to someone, and they were like, oh yeah, you're good to go, no problem. You know, thought that everything was taken care of. And when we got here, it wasn't. So, you know, talk to more than one person.
That's right. That's right. So, you know, it's totally different if you're coming here to be a tourist and if you're trying to move here. And of course, on this channel, we talk about, you know, people wanting to move and trying to help them to move, because there are a lot of people that are talking about moving, and we're going to go into that and why I think that is. But let's talk about some of those challenges.
Yeah. And you know, I think one of the differences is some cell phone cell phone plan suppliers in the U.S., when you say you're going out of the country, they think you're just going for a little while, and they put you on what is like a temporary overseas plan. But that's not going to work if you're coming to stay in Costa Rica for a while and you want to get a Costa Rican plan. So that's a little bit of a difference there. And we talked about double checking the requirements to come into Costa Rica. We also need to double check the requirements for going back to your home country, because those things are changing.
That's right.
You know, when Alan went to the States in January, he was not required to have a COVID test to go into the United States, but as of January 26th, if you fly into the United States, you have to have
a COVID test. So things do change often, but it's not all countries. So you do need to check with us or check the form, and we're trying to do our best to keep you updated at all times. Okay. So that's just one of the things.
Okay.
Now,
somebody's asking, how do you get the proof of
we'll
your hotel?
answer questions on the Q&A.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so look, and of course, Rebecca was about to answer a question, and what we want to do is cover all of the topics, and I promise you we're going to answer every single question, so put your questions in here, but we're going to ask you to put your questions in the next live, which is going to be the Q&A live, okay? So the next thing, Rebecca mentioned that, hey, you want to make sure that your cell phone's unlocked, but also you got to check with the bank, because the bank, you need to kind of unlock your credit cards, because sometimes your credit cards don't work when you get here, for security measures, common sense. So you want to let your bank know, hey, I'm traveling, I'm going to be in Costa Rica a while, whatever, so that you can use your credit card.
That's right.
Which leads us to the next topic is, how are you going to access your money? If you're going to move here, well, really, it's a no-brainer. When we first came, we just continue to use our regular bank and our credit cards, right? Our debit cards.
Yeah. They were accepted almost everywhere that we went. A few places don't accept, and so you just have to have cash on you in case you go to a restaurant or a little store that doesn't take a debit card or a credit card.
Now, you do always want to keep some colonas on you. Hey, if you had 50,000 colonas, which is equivalent to about $100, then you can go anywhere in case they don't take the credit card. Because some places don't. Now, some places will take that credit card. However, it's not uncommon for the electricity to go out or the internet not to work and their credit card machine don't work. So then you got to pay with cash. And when I say cash, I'm not talking about dollars. I'm talking about colonas. Always, always, always pay in colonas, because that is the Costa Rican currency.
Right. They'll take U.S. dollars. And most tourist areas take debit and credit cards, but you'd be surprised how many little restaurants and little knick-knack shops and
potpourris that don't take it. Mm-hmm. Now,
but every time that has happened to us, if we didn't have enough cash on us, there's usually an ATM close by.
Close enough that you can go.
Right. You might have to pay some fees to get your money out of one of those.
Yeah, so there's been rare times when the machine didn't work and I didn't have cash, so they would hold Rebecca hostage. They bound her up and all. No, I'm teasing. But I would just leave her. I'd go get the money and come back. So not a problem. Okay. Costa Ricans are very kind people, and so in most cases you won't have any problems if something happens, especially once they get to know you. Okay. Now, also something that Rebecca said is if you're on medications, right?
Right. That's something to think about. Is the hospitalization that you have, will it pay in Costa Rica? And if you're on maintenance meds, will you be able to refill them while you're here? Because Costa Rica is really, really advanced in the medical realm. They're known for a lot of advancements. However, I've found that in the reading that I've done, that a lot of medications that are available in the U.S. are not available in Costa Rica. They may have, let's say, high blood pressure. They may have a choice of 2 or 3 meds. In the U.S., you have lots of meds to choose from. So
Now, a thing to keep in mind is that, what is interesting here is that while in the United States you might have to have a prescription when you go to get something, a lot of times that's not the case here. You can go to a pharmacy, ask them for something, and most of the time get it. If I have a minor problem, whether it's, an infected something or another, I can go to the pharmacy and say, look at this right here, and tell me what do I need. And they will prescribe something right there. They're not going to send me to a doctor. They'll just sell me what I need. And that is nice to know. So like Rebecca said, if you're on maintenance medication, usually you can get what you need. It may not be the brand or what you're used to, but they'll prescribe something similar.
right, so that's something I would definitely find out before coming. Don't just assume that if you're on a certain brand that it's going to be available to you, because I know switching brands can be not good for certain health conditions.
All right, so there's a lot of things that will happen and a lot of things that you can be prepared for or challenges in preparing to come. But what a lot of people don't realize, so before I go into, is there something you want to mention as far as preparing to come?
Yeah, something else I just thought of. Make sure that your driver's license is not about to expire before coming. Make sure it's not going to expire while you're here, because that's the only way that you're allowed to drive is on a valid driver's license from your home country.
That's right. So you do want to make sure that you have lots of time allowed on that. Now, not a problem if you're just a tourist, but let's go in, because like I said a moment ago, there are going to be challenges in preparing to come. However, a lot of people don't think there are challenges that happen after you are here. What do you do then? So let's discuss some of those challenges after you have arrived, okay? So, here's a big one, especially if you're not a tourist. If you're coming and you're planning on staying, well, the biggest challenge is what you're going to do when that 90-day comes. Because when you're coming here, you're allowed to stay for 90 days, and then you are required to stamp out of the country, come back and get another 90-day stamp. At the present time, you have to have insurance, okay? And we have all that information inside our form on the best place to get insurance where it's not going to cost you a whole lot. When I went to the States and came back, I had to get insurance. I didn't have insurance prior. So, I guess we were all grandfathered in. But once I left, I had to get insurance. It only cost me under $80 for 90 days, okay? Which is a lot cheaper than a lot of the other ones, and I compared those, okay? But what are you going to do?
That's just a travel insurance.
That's just travel insurance. It's going to cover you in the event you get sick. And it doesn't matter whether it's COVID, a flu, or what. It's travel insurance, okay? Which is not a bad idea. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that on December 1st, Costa Rica kind of reset everybody, because we had been in the country, and Rebecca still, for over a year without ever stamping out because of COVID, because of the pandemic. Well, they reset everything December 1st and said everyone March 2nd would have to stamp out, but they had hoped things would be back to normal, and it's fast approaching March 2nd, and the land borders are still closed. Here's my assumption. This is only my opinion, okay? I think Costa Rica is going to give us yet another extension, and I don't think they're going to force everybody to leave and come back. And I say that because they are doing everything they can to encourage tourists and encourage foreigners to stay in Costa Rica, spend their money to boost the economy. And I believe Costa Rica is going to be intelligent enough to do that, okay? So I really believe that that's what they're going to do. But you better be prepared just in case they don't, that you might have to fly out and fly back in, or take a bus out to Mexico and come back in. Several options, okay? So you need to be prepared on what to do when it comes close to your 90 days, okay? The next thing.
I don't know, can you take a bus out with
Yes,
the
you
land
can
borders?
take a bus out, okay? So there is, I think it's called Tico bus. Not 100% sure, but anyway, there is a bus that goes out, okay? And we'll talk about that on another video, okay? Now, the next thing is if you're planning on coming to live here, obviously we always say it's best to come live here for a while, decide if you like it, and if you decide that you do like it, then plan to get your residency. If you've already done all that and you know you want to get residency, it's best to go ahead and contact someone on our forum about residency, or if you have someone, contact someone so that you can start getting all of your paperwork. You got to get marriage certificate. You've got to get
you have to have your fingerprints done, an apostle, a background check.
Yeah, so they got to do quite a bit of paperwork, and it's much easier to get that paperwork while you're in the United States than trying to do it from here.
And now with the pandemic situation, I've read that everything is backlogged. It's just taking 2-3 times longer to get paperwork done.
So you want to make sure that you are, I don't know what's going on here. We're buffering here, so all we can do is, but I think everything is good here because we're on the data, okay? Anyway, let's continue here. So at the moment, make sure that you have everything that you need and start doing your research to get your residency, and we do have professionals in the forum that can help you with that.
And if you just want to come and see if you like it before applying for your residency, like Alan said, you know, once you're here, it is possible to do it. Just realize that it's going to take
everything takes a lot
longer.
You need to speak up too, because
okay.
Okay. All right. And please let us know if you're having problems with hearing. And hey, look, we apologize for all the background noise. We did get lapel mics, but seems like they didn't work, so we'll have to try again. So anyway, the next thing is you do need to know that when you come here, it's like any country that you go to. It's not just Costa Rica. You're going to have people that take advantage of tourists. So don't leave your backpack. Don't leave your things out where people can be tempted to take your stuff. Because in Costa Rica, if you leave it out, it's going to get taken. So make sure that you don't leave your valuables out. That's common sense anywhere you go.
Anywhere you go. So, but all the beautiful pictures of Costa Rica make it look like that wouldn't be a problem here when you look at the tourism websites. But you know, it's no different than anywhere else. Don't leave your stuff unattended.
Don't leave your stuff unattended. Definitely don't leave it inside your car and say, I'm just gonna lock my car, because windows will get broken out if they can see the backpack is there. Okay, it has happened too many times. So don't leave anything outside. Okay.
Yeah, especially cameras, cell phones, of course wallets. But those things are easy targets and a favorite of thieves.
Okay. Now, also, when you come down here, you know, mode of transportation is something that you need to think about. Now, in my opinion, a lot of people say, well, what's the best mode of transportation? Now, if you're young, well, you know, maybe you're young at heart, and if you're not scared of riding a motorbike, that's probably the quickest, fastest, cheapest mode of transportation. You can pick up a very good Yamaha. I got a Yamaha here. It was like $3,000. It's an off-road bike, and $3,000, and we were riding all over the place, and we traveled in that thing for several years before we ever bought a vehicle, because you want to take your time when buying a vehicle. I always suggest going to San Jose and buying a vehicle, because a lot of those vehicles haven't been on a lot of dirt roads. In other words, they're not beaten up, okay? And
our poor car now.
Our poor car has been beaten up. I beat it up, taking it on some serious roads, okay?
We're going off-road adventures.
So anyway, that's just some things to think about right there. So you want to take your time, because buying a vehicle here, whether it's brand new or used cars, you know, when we bought our used car, it was $4,000, and that was a 20-year-old vehicle, okay? So it's a huge difference in, you know, what I would have bought. That same vehicle, if I'd have bought it in the United States, it would have probably cost me $500 instead of $4,000. Big difference, okay? So just something to think about.
Like we were talking about the other day, I was telling Alan, when we got here, there weren't that many new cars. But now, I mean, we sat at a restaurant in San Jose and we're like looking to see any old cars, and we spotted maybe 2 in 10 minutes. So I'm like, where are all the used cars for sale?
And I don't know this as fact, but when we first came here, I don't think banks were financing cars like they are now. I do know that now banks are financing cars way more than they used to, so maybe that's why people have more brand new cars than what we used to see when we first got here, okay? But that's a whole nother topic. But anyway, those are some of the challenges of coming to Costa Rica and once you get here.
Right. And Costa Rica, as we've mentioned several times, has a bus system that is amazing. The buses are extremely nice. You know, a lot of them are air conditioned and very clean and comfortable, and they go everywhere.
That's right.
So,
I'm glad she brought that up because I completely forgot. I suggest getting you a motorcycle and getting around, and then getting a used vehicle. But hey, you don't have to. Like Rebecca said,
Right,
the
you
public
can get around.
transportation is phenomenal. I used to think, okay, geez, when I get there, public transportation is going to be one of them buses with the live chickens inside. No, that's not the case here. They got great public transportation. They got the taxis, and in the larger
taxis
cities,
are not expensive either.
the taxi's not crazy expensive, but in the larger cities, you can get an Uber, which will save you a lot of money. And it's a little bit nicer vehicle as well, okay? So the public transportation is great, okay?
Yeah, so don't feel like, unless you live out in the middle of nowhere like we do, if we didn't have a vehicle, we'd have to walk probably a quarter mile, maybe a half mile to the nearest bus stop.
Right, which isn't far at all,
Right.
but there's bus stops all over Costa Rica, so you won't have a problem getting a bus stop. But you know what I've seen? I have seen people standing on the side of the road, wasn't any bus stop, but they knew the bus was passing, and since there wasn't a bus stop near them, they just hailed the bus.
That's true. You don't even have to go to the bus stop.
The bus will pull over and pick you up. So that's good to know. Now, let's kind of go back to some of those other topics. So those are a lot of the challenges here. We're already on 30 minutes. Hey, I apologize that we had technical
Oh my gosh.
issues, okay? But thank goodness we got it worked out. However, like I started out, why are so many people wanting to move to Costa Rica? Our channel is growing extremely fast. We get tons of comments, tons of emails, and there's a lot of people talking about moving to Costa Rica. Now, this is only my opinion. I don't have any facts to back this up. But my opinion or my guess is, well, obviously, a lot of people are unhappy about the political situation that's happening in the United States. Whether you're for or against, doesn't matter. But some people are saying, well, if this happens, I'm moving. If this happens, I'm moving. Just move, okay? But since Costa Rica is such a nice place to live, hey, go where you're going to be happy and where you can enjoy life, whether that means living in your home country or living in Costa Rica. A lot of people are moving because of that. Now, there's a lot of people that are moving because a lot of people, for example, Canada and the UK, they can't go when they want to go. Their country has said, no, Canada, no, UK, you cannot leave even if you want to leave. So that kind of takes away your freedom, doesn't it? And so some people are like, well, I'll just move to Costa Rica, and that way I can come and go as I please. So there's some people that want to move for that. And, obviously the whole COVID situation, right? It's worse in some areas than it is here. So that brings up, well, what is the COVID situation in Costa Rica? Well, I got to say kudos to Costa Rica because from looking at all of the numbers, it appears that Costa Rica did a fabulous job in managing their COVID stuff.
Yeah, and things are almost back to normal here, other than a few driving restrictions. And of course, indoors you have to wear a mask. That's, but if you're outdoors, if you're on the beach, they're not expecting you to wear a mask.
That's right. And that's indoors at, stores and stuff. We're indoors, obviously, here at a restaurant, but at a restaurant, you get to eat and all that. You don't have to have your mask, okay? So there are, it just seems like Costa Rica has done a fabulous job with the COVID situation. Now, there's a couple of things that don't make sense to me, but you know what? It doesn't matter whether it makes sense to me or not. I'm a guest here, so I just kind of follow the rules. For example, people are wearing masks, and whenever I came back from the United States, I had my mask. And, I like this mask. It's really comfortable. However, the airport and places of business in Costa Rica don't recognize this as a mask.
You look like a bandito.
Yeah, so they said I had to have this. Okay, I'm better protected now.
A cloth mask, but just not this kind of cloth mask.
So I could have this or a regular cloth mask that, pulls my ears off my head. but this was not recognized. Okay, so it
But we
doesn't
just-
matter.
yeah, we just
The point
follow the
is,
rules.
I'm a tourist, I'm a guest, I will follow the rules. I'll happily follow the rules because I enjoy the pros of being in Costa Rica. But it's important that you know that, hey, and you know, my guess is they will probably all go to just this particular mask and recognize this everywhere. Because you can sew your own cloth mask, and I don't know what's the difference between sewing my own cloth mask or using this. And I'm really tempted to tell you what Forrest Gump told me, because Forrest Gump says I'm not a smart man, but he was like, Alan, with them big old thick blue jeans you wear,
Are you gonna go
and
there?
that mask I'm wearing,
Don't go there.
don't go there. All right, Rebecca says don't go there, but you know, Forrest was like, if I can still smell, I don't know how that's going to help this mask from keeping me from getting the COVID. Anyway.
You're also getting political.
No, I don't think that's political. It's mask or no mask anyway. I just wear my mask when I'm told to. Okay, so anyway, I like to have fun, and you know, life is too short not to have fun. So anyway, that's what we're talking about. Now, you know what? I think Costa Rica has done a fabulous job with the COVID situation and the pandemic. And like Rebecca said, it's getting better and better and back to normal. However, there is one thing. There are unexpected challenges when coming to Costa Rica. For example, the COVID situation, unexpected. It's always changing. However, they did just announce yesterday that the RN, or what's called the Rescue National, okay, the National Rescue. There's a group here that are kind of standing up for the rights of the Costa Ricans, and they announced that tomorrow on February 15th, they're going to start protesting and they're going to start roadblocking. You know, it's a serious, serious pain for everybody. However, they're saying that they're going to do that because they are upset about...
It's Rescue Nation.
Yeah, Rescue Nation is what it's called. And they're upset about... Costa Rica wanting to borrow $1.75 billion from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and also the new public employment law. I don't know what the public employment law is about, but you know, they hold these roadblocks, and I don't fully understand that. I'm sure they understand why they're doing what they're doing. And it's most of the time. It's important that you know most of the time it is non-violent, although the last time it did get violent sometimes, which wasn't good.
Yeah, very out of the ordinary.
Very out of the ordinary, okay?
Of course, it was all over the news because somebody did
That's
something
right.
violent.
So you want to, and most Costa Ricans are not violent. They're usually very, very kind people. However, you know, I don't understand. They will block the roads, and they're really trying to stop mass transportation, but they stop all transportation. Never, never, never try to cross one of the lines whenever they're blocking the roads. It can get nasty.
Right, even though we're saying, you know, they're usually very kind and everything, we had a bad experience with, you know, trying to get through. And on the U.S. Embassy Costa Rica website, they even have a travel alert because it is very serious to them. I'd say that's probably the times that we see them the most
Upset.
upset.
Yeah.
Yes, they're very passionate about these. If they're protesting, they're very passionate about it. And I have to say that that's one of the main things with Costa Rica, the instability of the economy as far as a nation. You know, they have a lot of debt and it has to be refinanced every so often. So there's a lot of upset people about taxes and how they're going to finance. Yeah.
That's right. So, you know, those just things that you need to know about. And so you come to Costa Rica, whether you're a tourist or whether you're moving here, you
Don't
never
try
know.
to go
That's
past
right.
those lines.
You never know when there might be a roadblock, you know. And so that brings me to the last thing that we're going to talk about before I shut down this live so that we can be prepared for the Q&A live, okay? And the last thing is, will Costa Rica make the vaccine mandatory? I wished I had a answer for you there, but I can only tell you what I guess. And, you know, Costa Rica
I've done some research.
Okay, well, tell us. Rebecca's done some research, so tell me what you think, Rebecca.
Well, my research found nothing.
Okay, so her research didn't find
nothing
anything.
right now that says that it will be mandatory. The only thing that I found that was close to that is they're saying that employees have the right to not be vaccinated. You know, they have the right to refuse the vaccination and cannot be fired for it. But as far as I could tell, that was if it was a company policy. What I'm reading is if the Costa Rica decides that it is mandatory, then everybody just will have to take it.
Okay, so in my opinion, I don't think that is ever going to happen. And the reason I say that is because of the Rescue Nation. You know, Rescue Nation will stand up for all of their people. And if they think that borrowing $1.75 billion to pay back money that Costa Rica owes, which means they would have to increase taxes from the poor people instead of decreasing these crazy amount of pensions from people, you know, I believe that they would stand up for their people and say, no, we shouldn't have to take the vaccination. That's just my opinion. There's no facts to stand behind it. With that said, right now, there's a ton of people, lots and lots of people who are watching right now. Do me a favor right now. Hit the like button because we don't have nearly as many likes as we have people watching, and that helps us a lot. So if you'll just take a moment, 2 seconds, hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button, and that tells the algorithm that you value the information that we give you. And I'm about to actually stop this live broadcast, and all of the questions that you put in our comments, we're going to address every single question in the next Q&A live. So YouTube has a new thing where you should be immediately redirected to the next live broadcast that's going to go live promptly at 2:45 Eastern Standard Time. In matter of fact, in under 4 minutes, in under 4 minutes, that live will go. So please take a moment, hit that like button right now. I want to see those likes go up because it helps us tremendously, and it helps us a lot whenever you leave comments and you give us shout outs. So all of that engagement helps us tremendously, okay? All right, I'm getting ready to end this broadcast, and we'll see you in just a couple of minutes on the very next live where we're going to answer all of your questions pertaining to what we talked about, the challenges of moving to Costa Rica. But after we answer all those questions, we're more than happy to answer other questions as well. So until then, we'll see you at the next live Q&A.